In the 1930s, Kolkata's landscape was defined by grand colonial structures like the Royal Crescent Hotel, characterized by massive domes and imposing clock towers. These buildings were designed to last centuries, carrying the weight of history into the present day. Rupa, a 26-year-old housekeeper, spent her shifts navigating the remnants of that era, the long, dimly lit corridors and heavy wooden staircases. For her, the building was a workplace of routine tasks and silent hallways. That routine broke when a rhythmic, heavy dragging sound began echoing from the second-floor honeymoon suite. The noise was mechanical and persistent, vibrating through the wood of the door. Hotel records showed no guests had checked into the suite. Following protocol for a supposedly empty room, Rupa swiped her security card and pushed the door open to investigate the source of the noise. In the center of the bedroom, a headless torso hung in mid-air. Its limbs were stretched tight, anchored by ropes to each of the 4 bedposts, and the entire body was swinging in a wide, slow arc. Blood dripped from the severed neck, marking a dark line on the floor as the body maintained its steady, pendulum-like momentum. The physics of the scene suggested a highly calculated setup. Suspending a body from 4 separate points to create a continuous, balanced motion requires significant technical preparation, indicating a ritualistic display. Following the discovery, Rupa's environment began to warp. At 3 a.m. in the staff quarters, she heard the same dragging sound outside her door. When she looked through the gap at the floor, she saw a pair of feet shuffling past, but the heels were at the front, as if the person were walking backward into the dark. While clearing out an old storage room days later, Rupa found a heavy wooden box. It was carved with a specific set of symbols, a central eye inside a circle, surrounded by the overlapping imprints of human hands. Inside were photographs from a different era. Masked figures stood in a circle around a headless woman who was suspended in the air by her wrists and ankles, exactly like the body Rupa had found in the suite. The people in these photos were the city's colonial elite, wealthy, influential figures who had formed a secret society in 1931. The back of the images bore the word Arpan, the Sanskrit term for a ritual sacrifice. This history was physically embedded in the hotel. In the basement, police broke through a wall to reveal a chamber that had been sealed since 1941, untouched for 80 years. A diary found among the ruins explained the specific geometry of these killings. Each sacrifice required 4 distinct anchor points to turn the victim into a human pendulum, centered over a stone altar. This 4-point suspension was a kinetic requirement. By balancing the weight perfectly, the body would swing long after the cultists left. The basement walls were covered in the same eye and handprint symbols Rupa discovered in the storage box, painted by the 1931 cultists to mark the hotel's foundation as their sacred ground. The diary's final entry contained a specific warning. It stated that the cycle of the Arpan would remain open, with the cult returning to the hotel repeatedly until a final, concluding sacrifice was achieved. These events were following a strict logistical sequence. Rupa had unknowingly stepped into a 90-year-old ritual, becoming the specific target needed to complete the cult's final sacrifice. Rupa attempted to flee the hotel that night, but 5 figures in black masks and robes appeared in the long corridor, blocking the exits. They stood in the same formation seen in the 1931 photographs. Each figure was holding a rotting, severed head, the preserved trophies from the previous decades of the ritual. Panicked and trapped, Rupa ran into the nearest unlocked room and bolted the door from the inside. She immediately called the police, unaware that her survival instinct had led her directly back into the honeymoon suite. The police arrived within minutes, but the suite door was deadbolted from the inside. They had to use force to breach the room, even though no one else should have been able to lock that door. Inside, they found Rupa. Her body was suspended by its hands and feet from the 4 corners of the bed, swinging in a slow, rhythmic arc. Her head was missing. On the wall above the bed, the words Antim Arpan, the final sacrifice, had been written in fresh blood. The Royal Crescent Hotel remained a static trap for nearly a century, a site where the 1931 ritual finally reached its calculated conclusion. The blood debt was settled, leaving only the legend of the headless woman in the halls.